Have you noticed that different car brands often have their own completely different takes on how to operate basic equipment? Like you try to wash the windshield but instead you end up changing gears. Let's dive in. First up, full disclosure, this only covers cars that I've actually driven, so no ridiculous stuff from the 70s or older. Still, there are some pretty interesting ones. One German premium brand gets mentioned on every item. Also keep in mind that this applies to European markets, so it might be different for right-hand drive regions. Alright, wipers. This has been fairly standard for decades. You have stalk to the right of your steering wheel, push it up for a single wipe or press it down for continuous wipes at different speeds. Right? No. That's indeed how it works on many cars, including mine. But on others it can be the total opposite. Down for a single wipe and up for continuous wipes at different settings. Still pretty simple. But then you have Mercedes. If there is a stalk on the right side of the steering wheel, then that's the gear selector for the automatic transmission. The wipers are actually controlled by rotating a knob at the end of the stalk on the left side. It is pretty common to spray washer fluid by pressing a button at the end of the right stalk, but doing that on a Merc puts the car in park. I've done that accidentally more times than I'd like to admit. Or the opposite. Washed the windscreen in a BMW when I wanted to put it in park. I guess I should just be happy as long as it's physical control and not a touchscreen. Right? Headlights. Yes, mostly controlled by a stalk on the left side. On my car you can adjust the mode by rotating a knob at the end. But as I said before, on a Mercedes, that adjusts the wiper speed. Most brands have their own takes on how to turn the fog lights on or off. But the most disorienting difference is the high beams. I learned to drive in a 1998 Citroën Xantia. If you pull the lever back slightly, you flash the lights. If you pulled it all the way, you engaged the high beams. And if you pulled it all the way again, you disengaged the high beams. For years I thought that was the only method. Boy was I wrong. On my Civic, for example, you turn the high beams on by pushing the stalk forward, and you turn them off by pulling it back. And then on a Mercedes, you turn them on by pushing it forward and turn them off by pushing it forward again. It's so much fun to drive different cars in one day. No wonder I don't really trust my muscle memory. BMW have had their own take on the headlight/indicator stalk for the last 20 years or so, but I don't personally understand the hate. I got used to the switch style system almost immediately. Then there's the handbrake. Through the years it's been pretty standard to have it between the seats. In some Fiats, Citroëns and Peugeots it is a bit different though. The handbrake lever is actually located to the left side of the driver's seat, so it's the first thing you encounter when you open the driver's door to enter. Not that weird though. Then there's Mercedes. Their solution to the parking brake is a bit different. You have this pedal on the left of your clutch, you push it in with your foot to engage the parking brake. And then there's a lever above the pedal, which you pull to release the parking brake. Back in 2019, when I drove a Vito for the first time, I actually had to Google how to release the parking brake, because otherwise I couldn't get started. And it was the same on at least that generation of E-classes. You still notice traces of this to this day with automatic handbrakes, when most manufacturers have the release where the handbrake used to be in the old times. But in a Mercedes, it's on the other side, where it used to be for them in the old times, on the left side of the steering wheel. I won't even start with all the weird solutions for drive selectors for modern automatics and electric cars. There's just way too many. What I will address are the differences between engaging reverse gear with manual transmissions. Most cars I've driven have had it in the lower right corner, which I find aesthetically pleasing, at least for 5 speeds. My current one has 6, and it is not as pleasing to the eye. But it works. Another common location has been on the upper left corner. In these systems you often had to pull a lever on the stick or the entire stick upwards to engage reverse. And on my Audi from 95, it was the opposite. You had to actually press the lever down to engage reverse. That's the only car I've ever seen that's had that. Not even a Passat from the same era has that, and it was built on the same platform. Once again though, can you guess the odd one out? That's right, Mercedes. Where did they put the reverse gear in their manual transmissions? I don't know about the others, but at least on Sprinters it was on the lower left side. Same for Volkswagen Crafters from that same era, because that was the same van, just with different badging. There are at least as many climate control configurations as there are manufacturers, I won't bother with that. But that was also pretty much the case with cruise control settings until very recently. There used to be all kinds of unique solutions with separate stalks, which are thankfully mostly gone by now. Like on Mercedes, it was a separate stalk below the indicator stalk. Except for Sprinters and older models where it was on top. Way to mess with my muscle memory again, Mercedes. Nowadays, cruise control settings are almost universally integrated into the steering wheel, where they belong, to be honest. Then again, on European cars, it's common to have the controls on the left side and the media controls on the right side, which I find pretty intuitive, because the screens and the media controls are on the right side, in the middle of the car, so it makes sense. On Japanese cars, though, it is the opposite. Like my last two Hondas have had the media controls on the left and the cruise control settings on the right. I have had over 2 years to adjust to this, but I still can't do it. I still keep mixing them up all the time. Alright, these are the ones I have experienced personally, but I know there are more out there that I haven't encountered. What's the weirdest control solution you have encountered? Feel free to tell it in the comments. Bye for now. Have you noticed that different car brands often have their own unique takes on... Have you noticed that different car brands often have their own completely different